The Aba's Women's Riot of 1929, also known as the Women's War, was a significant anti-colonial revolt that occurred in southeastern Nigeria. This event is notable for its scale, organization, and the role of women in challenging British colonial policies. In the late 1920s, Nigeria was under British colonial rule, and the southeastern region, comprising of the Igbo and other ethnic groups, was administered directly through local chiefs appointed or recognized by the colonial authorities. The colonial administration implemented several policies that disrupted traditional governance structures and imposed new forms of economic exploitation. One of the key grievances that led to the Aba's Women's Riot was the introduction of new taxation policies. The British authorities, seeking to increase revenue, decided to extend direct taxation to the indigenous populations, which included taxing the incomes and properties of men and potentially introducing taxes on women. This move was seen as deeply intrusive and unjust, especially in a society where women's economic activities were vital to the household and community economies. The women, led by influential leaders, organized themselves into large groups and began a series of protests. They employed traditional methods of resistance, such as sitting on a man, a form of protest where women would gather at the house of a man or an official they were dissatisfied with, singing and dancing, often mocking or satirical manner, until their demands were met. The protests escalated into what became known as the Women's War. Thousands of women participated in these demonstrations, which included attacks on colonial administrative buildings, the release of prisoners, and the destruction of warrant chiefs' homes and properties. The warrant chiefs were seen as collaborators with the British and symbols of the oppressive colonial system. The women utilized their traditional networks and communication systems to coordinate their actions across the vast region, demonstrating high levels of organization and solidarity. They demanded the removal of the warrant chiefs and the end of the planned taxation. The British colonial administration was initially taken aback by the scale and intensity of the protest. The response from the authorities was swift and brutal. The colonial government deployed police and military forces to suppress the riots. The use of force resulted in significant violence, and by the end of the uprising, it was estimated that about 50 women were eliminated and many more were injured. The Aba Women's Riots had a profound impact on the colonial administration in Nigeria. The protests forced the British to re-evaluate their policies. While the immediate taxation plans were suspended, the event also led to a reassessment of the indirect rule system of the role of women in the colonial economy. In the long term, the Women's War is remembered as a critical episode in Nigeria's anti-colonial history. It highlighted the crucial role of women in resistance movements and challenged the colonial narrative that underestimated their political agency. The riots also underscored the broader discontent with colonial rule and contribute to the growing momentum of independence, which Nigeria eventually achieved in 1960. The Aba Women's Riots remains a powerful symbol of collective action and resistance, and they are commemorated in Nigerian history for their demonstration of women's leadership and courage in the face of British colonial oppression. To all of the women of the Aba's Women's Riot, we proudly stand on your shoulders. For more information, please visit my website at www.ontheshoulders1.com. There, you can support my OTSOG book series. You can also support me on Patreon at patreon.com/OTSOG, and you can hit the super like button under this video. I love you all, and make sure you catch the next video coming up.